Hello friends, welcome back to Holistic Lifestyle Medicine. The theme for this video has been slowly percolating in my system, in my heart, in my mind for the last week or so. And I've been waiting, not quite sure how I will put all of this in words. Sometimes I can wait too long rather than just get in front of my camera and start talking and trust that the message that I do want to convey will come through with the right words and the right meaning. So what I wanted to talk about today was value, and how from the point that we are born we are deeply conditioned into what value means, what the value of a human being is. And this is done through, firstly, inherited patterns or inherited belief systems, inherited cultural beliefs through the family that we're born into. Then we inherit more of conditioning, more of belief systems and popular consensus around value from the schooling and education system, then from friends, peer, media, culture, right? And I want to bring about this emphasis that essentially, before I even go into exploring value, what is the value of a human being? What is the worth of a human being, right? I want to set the stage first, and I want to set the stage at the start of every video because I don't think that we realize enough what we are operating within. Like, we don't appreciate enough. And the reason that we don't appreciate enough is because we haven't been able to step out of this system that we live in, this dominant culture, this dominant paradigm that we live within. So to observe something, to be able to see something more clearly and more objectively, we have to have a distance from it. We have to be stepped out of it for a little bit to be able to see, okay, this is what I'm viewing. And so we're all born, raised into adults within systems and structures that I don't think we have truly learned to appreciate. Not appreciate in a way like how amazing these systems and structures are, but from a place of like the deep conditioning that these systems and structures create within the human mind, within the human psyche, within the collective human psyche. So let's talk about firstly the ground, the stage, the environment, the dominant paradigm. We can call it the neoliberal capitalist system, the dominant economic system. It's not one thing, right? It's everything. It's the way, it's our education systems, it's our financial systems, it's the media, it's the movies, it's everything we consume within this system and structure. It is so much. Think about everything that you touch in the course of a day as you go about your day is within the dominant neoliberal system, economic paradigm. And when we're born in this system, remember that our parents were also raised within it. Our grandparents, maybe going back into my heritage, my grandparents were not. My parents was the first generation that moved away from their ancient ways of living, the way they lived my grandparents lived in their village. They lived very seasonally, very frugally, in very limited means, but in a very healthy way connected to the land. And so, but in many cases, your grandparents would have been raised in the same structure and system. So we cannot know the impact of the conditioning of the dominant economic structure and system unless we step out of it a little bit, until we create a distance from it. And that's the distance that I've been creating in the last many years of my own personal journey. And I've been able to come and it's not one insight, it's not one revelation. Every few months I have a quantum leap in my understanding of just how deeply conditioned the human being is because of the environment and the systems and structures that we are raised within, and what it does to our essential nature, what that conditioning does to our essential nature, to our divine nature, to our true essence, to our soul. And that's what I've been deeply contemplating, deeply studying in my own personal journey. And so, setting the stage, our parents, grandparents, maybe our great-grandparents in many cases, have not also known anything different because they were also raised in a certain environment. So imagine a fish that has always swum in water, right? It does not know anything else. I mean, if it could breathe outside, I mean, it's a poor analogy, but imagine if it could breathe outside of that of water. And so then one day it just steps out and goes, so that's where everyone's been swimming. That's where everyone's moving and playing and eating and studying, and the fish can just for the first time look at that whole ocean ecosystem and go, so this is where everyone's been. And so when we're born in these systems and structures, we are raised with a very narrow view of what human value or human worth means, and it is very tightly coupled with our ability to participate in the consensus reality. It is very tightly coupled with our ability to, make a living or earn money or be successful or be seen as someone worthwhile within the consensus reality of the dominant economic system. And so that's how we are raised, right? And because we're raised like that, and we basically become adults like that, we go through our middle age and then we die one day, never really truly knowing what our true worth is, what our true value is, which has nothing to do with our participation in the dominant economic system, in this neoliberal economic system. It has nothing to do with the parameters set out in this system. It has nothing to do with the grading and the measurements and the judgments and the hierarchies that have been created within these systems for human beings to essentially compete. And human beings are essentially pitted against each other in this system. And so it creates so much tension in our nervous system, so much tension in our body, in our psyche, in our hearts, because we essentially move so far away from our center, from our heart center, from our essential nature, because we're, from the point we're born, we're taught that we've got to compete. We've got to compete for limited resources. We've got to compete for limited... in fact, we're always competing. We're competing for love. We're competing for resources. We're competing for time, because everything comes from a scarcity programming in this dominant system. Right? And the scarcity is a kind of programming, because if we step out a little bit and just contemplate, all it requires is some contemplation, we will see that actually nothing is scarce. There is no scarcity. The scarcity is manufactured. And it keeps human beings in a sense of stress. And when they're in a sense of stress, they're constantly following the playbook of competition, of outmaneuvering each other, manipulation. And so we spend our entire lives living like this, actually, in competition, manipulation, racing, outmaneuvering, trying to get to the top, and measuring ourselves and grading ourselves and judging ourselves. It starts with the schooling system, starts with our parents, starts with the education system, right? And it takes immense courage. It takes immense courage, immense faith, and an immense amount of curiosity to go on an internal journey, to truly connect with yourself and go, so what is my true value? My value isn't in the identities that I take on as this director, this manager, this CEO, this that. My true value isn't in the amount of money I make. My true value isn't in how externally beautiful or attractive I am judged according to consensus reality standards. You know, my true worth isn't in how I'm beating my aging process by using all sorts of methods. My true worth or true value isn't in how many followers I have on social media, or how many people like me, or how many people want to hang out with me. I don't know. The list goes on and on and on, right? Like when all of that is let go of as just measurements or parameters within essentially an extractive, depletive, distorted system that we've all inherited, that we're all born in, that we're all swimming in, like the fish. When we let all of that go, we can start to deeply connect with our true value, our true worth. If we have to use words like value and worth, because essentially there is no such thing as value or worth, because value and worth indicates measurement, and there is no measurement in the human nature. There is nothing to measure, there is nothing to grade, there is nothing to judge, there is nothing to improve, there is nothing, 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 nothing. There's nothing to do. And then we start to realize that just as we are, just as this, just here, just now, just this, all of this is enough, is of value. I am of value because I am. I'm worthy because I am. I am. I am. So I'm worthy. And this is such, it can be a long journey, it can be a short journey, but it is a journey to come into this inner realization of your own value, which is already given. It's not sought. This value, this worth is not sought. It's not run after. It is not competed for. It is not the reward of a race. It is not the reward of striving. It is not the reward of hard toil, of sweat, of labor. This value is already intrinsic. This value is not out there. This worth is not out there that needs to be gotten to, grabbed, and then brought back. This value, this worth is intrinsic. But this is not what our systems and structures, our education systems, our society, our culture, our parents, our media, our popular culture, our movies, they don't tell us this. They will not tell us this. And that's why the journey, it's a fool's journey. Because you decide that you've had enough. You've had enough of the competition, of the running, of the racing, of the seeking. And you just arrive home into your essential nature, which is already worthy, which is already valuable. And then from there, you would move differently. You would choose differently. And that is, I think, the journey of lifestyle medicine. When I first chose the name for this channel, Lifestyle Medicine, I was aware that this would limit what I wanted to talk about here on this channel, you know. And initially I did talk a lot about, I mean, there's some videos on my channel where I talk about daily rhythms and circadian rhythms. And even there's a video on eating more and more raw food in the day as well, on prana, on energy, on the way you live as that is your medicine. But lifestyle medicine is not restricted to any one theme. It is so broad. It's a topic that I could explore for the rest of my life and talk about for the rest of my life as I journey. And so then these days, this is literally everything I talk about on this channel is a result of my own internal process. I'll reach a milestone, I'll reach an understanding, and then I'll talk about it in a video. So it's all coming from my own personal journey. And that's my journey in the last few months, has been shedding an identity that was attached to participating in the system as a worker, as in a job. And because that did not come for a while, I had to struggle with that to arrive at this place now where I know my inherent worth is not tied to anything external outside of me, anything that I temporarily wear, any identity that I temporarily take on. So how that changes, how this realization of inherent value, of inherent worth, how that changes the way I live now, how that changes the way I move now, and the choices that I make now, is the rest of my journey, is the next chapter of my journey, which I will keep sharing. Thank you.